Hello and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. I have changed my location again because this is my dining room and there's a lot of natural light in here. There's a big French door window kind of thing right there, and there's a skylight and I don't have to have any lights on. It's the middle of the day, it's overcast, and this is great lighting. And there's a really pretty tapestry behind me. Yeah, my roommate put that up. There's also a plant right there and I really wanted the whole thing to be in the background, but unfortunately then my camera would be really far away, so you wouldn't be able to see me. But this is a great setup for me. Although I might have to change my name to Dining Room Table Knitting because I'm sitting at the dining room table now. But that's great because it's massive desk knitting now. So yeah, it's great. I really like this new space. Today I'm wearing my first ever Afmæli. I probably like someday an Icelandic person is gonna watch me say Afmæli and they're gonna be like, that is so not how you say that. But I am not an Icelandic speaker. So Afmæli means anniversary in Icelandic, and Vitas Jónsdóttir designed it for the 20th, I think, anniversary of Istex, which is the company that produces Lopi and other Alafas Lopi, Plotu Einband, many beautiful patterns, beautiful wool blankets. There's also bulky Lopi and stuff, but we don't really have that in the US very readily available. I did not knit this out of Lopi. I knit this out of Briggs & Little Heritage in Blue Heather, which you can get at Webb's, or this actually, because I got it from Webb's, I'm gonna say that. Webb's only has Briggs & Little in Heritage. They don't have the other yarn lines. And they only have like a few colors. They have like maybe 9 colors. Briggs & Little is a Canadian yarn company. If you've not heard me talk about Briggs & Little before, I'm gonna just do a little primer. It's a Canadian yarn company based in New Brunswick, where they spin Canadian wool and wool and spun into wool and spun yarns. And there's many different thicknesses, I guess. So there's Heritage, which is kind of like an Aran weight. Then there's Regal, which is my all-time favorite. Regal is like more of like a worsted DK weight. And then there's like Sport, which is like a sport weight. It's single ply, but it has the yardage of a fingering weight yarn. It's like 440 yards or something. You can get Durasport, which is the same thing, but with nylon, which is useful for socks. You can get Atlantic, which is even more of an Aran weight. I think they even have a bulky one. There's a bunch, like there's more than what I'm saying. If you've ever knit with Lichen and Lace, Rustic Sport, that's the same yarn as Briggs & Little Sport, but the person who dyes it themselves. They just get the natural colored yarn. If you want to buy any of this kind of yarn that I'm talking about, you can get it. The link's below. You can get it from Maritime Family Fiber, which is the US distributor for Briggs & Little, and they're up in Maine. And they'll just ship it to you from Maine. Like they're close to New Brunswick, so they get it. I think they just go and get it in Canada and then they can bring it back. And then they distribute it, which is great. And they have all the colors. There's tons of colors. Heathered colors, like beautiful dyed in the wool heathered ones. And then there's solid shades. All of them are nice. They're extremely what we would call rustic or toothy. I do not mind woolly wool at all next to my skin, but people who I've made these sweaters for, I've often said, I have to say, wear that with a shirt underneath because you're not gonna want that to be next to your skin because it'll make you itchy. And some, I would even say, wear a turtleneck. And the charcoal and the white are from it's like Bartlett Farms. It's in Maine. It's very similar to Briggs & Little. It's like an Aran weight, kind of like fisherman's wool, I think they call it. I'll link them down below too. They're lovely. I like the colors a lot, and I like the handle of the wool. It's really nice. And it goes really well with Briggs & Little Heritage. So yeah, this is Afmæli. It's a free pattern. I'll link it below. I've knit this pattern a bunch of times. I don't typically knit sweater patterns a whole bunch of times because I just like to do different things. But this one I've knit for maybe 4 times. Yeah, I think I've knit 4 of these. You may have seen me wearing my Lopi version, which is like a charcoal gray, and then this, where the white is here, that's all rainbow background colors, which is pretty cool. And then the flowers are in like a light gray. And it is knit from the bottom up and then joined at the yoke, and then you do the colorwork yoke, and then you join the arms with a Kitchener stitch or like a 3 needle bind off or something, whatever you prefer, at the end. So very cozy, a quick knit. It's nice thick Aran weight. Okay, 5 minutes in, and I have not told you what this episode is going to be about. Although I did just share a lot about Fair Isle knitting. I mean, Icelandic style stranded knitting, but still. This is the second installment in my Woolly Thistle box project. Woolly Thistle Deluxe Selection Box project number 2. This is the Peavine hat by Gudrun Johnston, knit in Marie Wallen's British Breeds. The Peavine hat is super nice. It's using 4 colors. I think it's originally designed with Tuca wool fingering, which has a very similar gauge to Marie Wallen's British Breeds. I had never knit with British Breeds before because it's got a pretty high price point. But I did admire the colors. I've been like following Marie Wallen's kind of like interviews about how she designed the yarn with John Arbin. John Arbin is a textile spinner in Devon, England, and they have a great YouTube channel. Actually, I've been watching their channel a lot. They have unbelievably beautiful yarn there, and really nice, like a really nice worsted handle on all of it. They spin Marie Wallen yarn, and they also spin Daughter of a Shepherd yarn, which I've also used, and it's also super nice. And then they spin their own yarn, most of which comes, I think, from England and specifically from Devon, but then, which is in the south of England. It's like near Cornwall, southwest. So where there's like a little kind of foot that juts out in the southwest of England. They're near there. And they also spin some yarn from other places like Falklands, Merino, and Corriedale, I think, which is super soft. They have amazing colors. They do a lot of amazing things with carding. So they like take a bunch of colors and card them all together and spin them. And you just get the most beautiful heather dyed in the wool colors. Oh my gosh. So there was also a skein of Yarnadelic yarn in that box. So, which was one of his, it's like kind of like a light sport, heavy fingering weight yarn, and it's like super heathered. Those colors were all based on like old songs, like old records that John would play for his team, and they would all like write down what colors came to mind when they listened to those songs, and then they dyed them up, and they're gorgeous. You can get Yarnadelic at the Woolly Thistle. You can get John Arbin's yarn from him, then you just have to get it shipped from England. So that's a little bit, that's a little pricey. But Marie Wallen, you can get here at the Woolly Thistle. And it is, it's worth it. And one of the reasons I didn't get it before was because I was like, I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna get addicted to it and I'm gonna have no money left over because I will spend all my money on Marie Wallen yarn. And it does not disappoint. It totally is amazing. So in the deluxe selection box, I got 4 colors. I got the blue or it's like greenish blue, kind of teal. If you look at it up close, it's very heathered. You can see it's kind of like there's like a black. The black comes from blending Swartbless yarn, which is a naturally dark brown yarn. Like they blend a little bit of that into the other mix. That's called Mallard. The light gray is called Raw, which is kind of like the lightest, most close to like white color that they do. The yellow is called Quince, and it's definitely like a very brownish kind of gray yellow, so pretty. And then the brown is called Wood. She's got 20 colors in total now, and I have heard that there's going to be 6 more in 2022, which is amazing. If I had room and the yarn budget for it, I would get all of them and knit with them constantly. This is a worsted spun yarn. So it's 2-ply, like Jameson Smith or Jameson's of Shetland or whatever, your typical kind of Fair Isle yarn. But yeah, it's worsted spun, so it means it's just like a little bit, the fibers are all combed in the same direction. It really does feel a lot like knitting with Jameson Smith. Like you can tell there's a different kind of spin. However, I think the yarns would play well together. And I have some left from this, like all of these colors. I have a little bit left, plenty left. I don't think I've used more than half a ball of any of them. Maybe I used more than half the ball of the whitish or maybe the blue. But anyway, there's plenty of each color left. So I'm gonna try it and see what happens. I don't think that they'll behave differently, especially after blocked, being blocked. Yeah, so the other thing about this yarn that really surprised me was that it was super soft. And that's probably because it's worsted spun. Again, because the fibers are all spun in the same direction. And it also has to do with the blend. It's a blend of yarns. There's 4 yarns that go into this. One of them's Blueface Leicester, which is really soft. I think another one's Wensleydale, which is also a long wool. So, yeah, if you get it, you can see it tells you the content, but it doesn't tell you how much of each goes into each one, because it's different percentages based on how much Swartbliss they have to blend in. Because that's like a dark brown kind of black color that really darkens, like kind of makes a color like really moody. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. He has a line called Harvest Hues, which is just merino blended with Swartbliss, like 65% merino, 35% Swartbliss, I think. And I've not used it yet. I will. I cannot wait to try it. And it's like you get this amazing rainbow of colors, but they're all like really, it's like a moody rainbow, because like an angsty rainbow, because they're all blended with this really beautiful dark brown. Oh man, it's just so pretty. Like there's a YouTube video on their channel about Harvest Hues that I'm gonna link below, and you should watch it and see all the amazing colors. Yeah, anyway, it's beautiful. So this hat is really fun for 4 colors, and it was on the pattern suggestion card if you got the box. So I love that pattern suggestion card. It is super useful. So you could have done a Shetland hat with this too. I mean, this is a Shetland hat, but like a more like Shetland Wool Week pattern, for instance, like the Katie's cap or DeCrofter's cap, which if you've seen my channel, you know I've knit many of. But Katie's cap I haven't knit for a long time, but I've knit a ton of variations on those types of caps with the star crown. This does not have a star crown, and I kind of like that because the star crowns are beautiful, but this is also really fun. It's like kind of like scalloped. It's like a beautiful scalloped edge. You do kind of get a star up here, but it's like a really like, it's like it has soft edges. And I love the soft edges of the crown in this hat. I think that it's really funky. It's not difficult to execute. Like it's much sort of easier to follow than those star patterns. Although the star patterns they're kind of intuitive once you get into it, because you can see the star forming. But this whole thing is just a real pleasure, because there's a lot of repetition, but it's not boring. Like the way that the colors go is not necessarily predictable. And so you're not just like this one, this one, this one, this one. Again, you're only using 2 colors in a row, or a round, but the combinations are really funky. And for these 4 colors in particular, they all really contrast with each other. Every single one of them contrasts with one another, which is impressive, because that's hard to do. And it's because of the actual colors themselves are super different. The value of the colors aren't necessarily different. And I say value as in, like, if you took a picture of these 4 shades, like let's say you had the 4 yarn balls lined up, and you took a picture and you made it black and white, then you can line them up in terms of like tint or shade, whatever it is, value. They wouldn't necessarily be super different in this hat, but with these 4 colors. But like, because that blue and that yellow are super different, you can see that stands right out. And the yellow is different from the brown, and the brown is different from the blue, and all of them are different from the white. So yeah, you can see every motif really well with these 4 colors. And one of the reasons I like the selection box is because if I had to pick my own 4 colors of Marie Wallin, I probably would just pick 4 blues or something boring. I mean, not that that's boring necessarily, but I love that I was challenged to use colors that I would not have necessarily thought to put together, because you just learn a ton of interesting things about colors. Like, one of the things that I suggest, even if, let's say you got the selection box and you have 4 colors that are exactly what you would have chosen, or, you know, anything. If you got, let's say you got like a Jameson and Smith grab bag, or you've got a big stash of Shetland wool. Let's say you've just got a big stash of Shetland wool. Challenge yourself to choose colors that you wouldn't necessarily put together. And you don't have to make a hat. You can just try, like, start, swatch, see what happens, because sometimes you'll be surprised. I just think this is super cool. And like I said, especially after blocking, it's really soft. It's really soft. And it's warm. And this is like just the perfect size hat, I find. You know, just like the Crafter's Cap, it fits me. It's snug, but it's not tight. It comes down far enough. You see, it covers my ears. You could put a pom-pom on it if you're inclined. I might actually put a pom-pom on this one, because I don't like to put pom-poms on Shetland hats because the star crown gets hidden. But this one, again, the reason that I tend not to put pom-poms on these also is because the wool is very fine. Like, it's a lightweight hat, and pom-poms tend to be pretty heavy. So the pom-pom might stand out. Like, a pom-pom is really good if your hat is like a DK weight or heavier, or it's like a super tight knit. I don't know. Yeah, tightly knit maybe. But yeah, I don't tend to go for a pom-pom on a Shetland hat or Shetland style hat, just because I don't think it needs it. I think the yarn is pretty enough. People keep telling me, like, you need a pom-pom, and I'm like, I don't need a pom-pom. Nuh-uh, I don't. Look at my hat, it doesn't need it. There are certain hats on which I would put a pom-pom. My mom loves to knit hats with pom-poms. She likes to knit DK hats. Her favorite one is called the Aisling hat. I'll link the Aisling hat below. I'm totally gonna knit one with my selection box yarn. I think with the Black Isle yarn, and I'll put a pom-pom on that one, and that'll be fun. But yeah, this is my Marie Wallen British Breeds cap, and I am thrilled with this. And again, this is a great pattern for just playing with 4 colors that you would not necessarily put together. Because, like, in a traditional Shetland pattern, like, let's say you're knitting to Crafter's Cap, that one, you know, when you're thinking about it, and in the samples that Wilma knit, you know, you're seeing kind of a gradual shifting of colors, and then you get your pop in the middle. But if you've got 4 colors that don't necessarily go in an order, like an obvious order, what are you gonna do? So that's why I like this pattern, because it's not like a big motif where the colors need to be somewhat coherent. I mean, they don't have to be coherent. They could be random in your Shetland hats. But this one, I think, is great because it allows for that kind of play of colors that are just in really different color families. So if you want to see that up close one more time, man, I love this hat. I feel like I have to do this and, like, stay here for a minute so that I can screenshot it later. Then I can have, like, a screenshot for YouTube where you can actually see. There's me. I look kind of crazy in some of the screenshots. They give you, like, 3 options, or you can upload your own, and, like, sometimes it's great. The options that they give me are great, and sometimes I'm like, nope. Let's choose a new one. So yeah, very cozy, nice. I live in Baltimore, which is in the Mid-Atlantic region, so it doesn't get super cold here. I say as it's freezing raining right now. It tends not to get super cold here. So, like, in Vermont, I would wear, actually Shetland hats are pretty warm because they're dense, because again, color work is double thick. So it's anything that you're doing stranded is gonna be twice as thick because you're carrying the floats, and that creates an extra layer of warmth on your skin or your head or whatever. So yeah, so but these are great. Like, it's usually between 40 and 45 degrees, maybe 30, 35, 45 degrees here in most of the winter. It gets colder, it also gets warmer. There's a lot of temperature range here in the winter, whereas in Vermont it's like usually about 25 degrees most of the time. The temperature range in Vermont is more like -10 to 35. Sometimes it gets into the 40s in the winter, but not often. So yeah, this is a good, either it's a good winter type of hat if you live in a place that's not super cold, or it's a great, like, you know, season changing hat if you live somewhere where it's cold. Like, I grew up in New England and I went to college in Toronto, where it's really cold. I mean, it's not freezing, it's not like Alberta, which is where my mom is from, but it's cold. And this could be like a nice, you know, fall spring cap. I always had a little collection of knit caps when I was an undergrad that were like, sometimes they didn't even come all the way to my ears. It was just like a little warm thing for my head that I enjoyed. So, you know, kept me warm but not too warm. So that's kind of what you need here. Warm but not too warm most of the winter. So yeah, I hope you consider knitting one of these hats and really challenging yourself to play with color, because it's fun. So thank you so much for watching. This has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Bye.